Billy, there was some legitimate drama here, I think, today. Some legitimate uh, indecision, not necessarily by Thomas, but by the people that cover recruiting. It's like nobody was really 100% sure. At least that's what it seemed like from the outside.
Yeah, we felt like going into it that LSU was going to be there for him at the end, and so was Texas A&M, and that's really kind of what it ended up being. And we kind of knew this was going to be one that, with it being so quiet throughout, that we would have to keep our ear to the ground all the way to the end. And today was kind of the day where people out of Walker and I think out of College Station started to lose confidence that A&M was going to get him. Whereas, the buzz picked up around LSU, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I think it's just a credit to the way LSU just hung in there and, knew that he was a prospect that really wanted to take his time, and he never got too high, never got too low in the recruiting process. He didn't have, a commitment go down during his recruitment. He didn't back off different pledges of schools. He just really took his time and settled on LSU, which for him, and you could tell if you watch the live stream, people in Walker are very, very happy that he is staying in state, and he completes a really impressive sweep of the top prospects in Louisiana for LSU.
Billy, you're talking about a different size receiver, 6'4", 190 pounds, and you would assume he has plenty of frame to be able to add too. And so do you kind of have a comp maybe of Brian Thomas? Because we saw some highlights obviously on the football field, but in the gymnasium as well. I mean, this is a very athletic guy.
He's super athletic, and the thing about him is he adds a red zone threat to this offense in this recruiting class, especially with Terrace Marshall leaving. Rayson McMath was a bigger body. They have a bunch of receivers that can create separation, get open, and are athletic in their own right. I mean, this is a class with Chris Hilton and Deion Smith and Malik Neighbors and Jack Besh, but he's kind of got just that big ball winner mentality that you want out of a receiver. He's got the basketball background. I don't know if he's as twitchy as somebody like Terrace Marshall is, but he has that ability to really force some matchup issues. I'm interested to see how they'll move him around in the offense and create opportunities for him. But I think right away you've got a bigger body that you can use in the red zone.
And Billy, you mentioned that sweep of the top prospects. Mason, according to 247, Mason Smith, number 1, LSU. Sage Ryan, number 2, LSU. Chris Hilton, number 3, LSU. Brian Thomas, number 4, LSU. And then Savion Jones, number 6. Destin Hill, Florida State, you'll have ranked number 5. So 5 of the top 6, LSU keeps home. Is there sort of any relationship between these guys? Was there kind of any sort of group effort, or is this just the staff doing a good job of coming off a national championship and locking down the players in the state?
I think the one player that stands out in this recruitment is Chris Hilton. They work out together, same trainer, been friends for a while. Chris Hilton's dad was at the announcement today for Brian Thomas Jr., and so I think that one really stands out. I think the quarterback room that LSU has put together over the last couple of years has really impressed him in that regard. He mentioned that right before they played his commitment video or commitment video preview or whatever, however you want to explain it, but he just really seemed like between the fit in the offense, the quarterbacks, and I think Chris Hilton played a role. He just really did a nice job of evaluating everything, and that receiver room that he'll be joining, I think, needed him, and so he's a difference maker for this LSU team.
Billy Embody is our guest. Brian Thomas Jr. from Walker has signed with LSU. This is 23 now. So at this point, or they're done with any high school players for the last 2. You're looking at transfers, probably graduate transfers if they're available for the last 2 spots. You can correct any of this if I'm wrong, so please. One is going to be a linebacker, and the other one is probably going to be an offensive lineman, but maybe some wiggle room there. What's your thoughts on the last 2 slots?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. The linebacker is definitely a need. Ed Ogeron's talked a lot about that and how they need to address that position and get some competition in there. And there's a lot of linebackers in the portal that could do just that and come in for multiple years. And that's important, too, when you look at the portal. Sometimes LSU's been great at getting one-year guys. Jabril Cox and Cole Tracy are just a couple that come to mind. And then the multi-year guys, Joe Burrow, that's where the portal can really pay off for a school like LSU, a school that's looking for help immediately, but also has the history of developing prospects over multiple years and getting them ready for the NFL. And so I think linebacker is the top one, and then from there, I think a best available with it being an offensive lineman that could come that way is probably how they'll use it. They could end up keeping that spot for 2022. It's a loaded crop in Louisiana, especially. I mean, they've got offers out to so many players in the state, and they could certainly clean up in state as well next year. So there's a lot of ways that last spot can go, but I think linebacker is a really sure bet for one of the two.
Billy, lots of new blood on the coaching staff. I can't keep track of the calendar anymore when it's dead period, who can talk to who or what. It's maybe too early, but any reviews of the new guys on the staff and how they've started to dive into the recruiting side of things?
Yeah, I think one that stood out to me was Jake Peets and Walker Howard, who's the 2022 quarterback commit, LSU legacy, top quarterback in Louisiana, one of the top quarterbacks in the country, could end up being, right up there for 5-star status. And we've heard that they had a really nice chat and kind of got started that relationship building process right off the bat. And I think the other guys, especially the defensive guys, will take a little bit longer to kind of get some feedback on, just because they were hired a little bit later. And for some of them coming from the NFL, they got to do the whole recruiting test taking thing before they can start doing that. But yeah, we heard some positive feedback on Jake Peets and DJ Mangus right off the bat from Walker Howard's side of things, looking ahead to 2022. And Will Campbell, who committed over the weekend, or I guess last weekend, really had some nice things to say about the new guys. And Bo Bordelon committing, I think kind of further shows where the staff is heading in a positive manner on the recruiting side of things offensively. So we'll see how the defensive guys do. I think based on the feedback from Ed Ogeron with how the players are taking to them early on, I think they'll be just fine. But yeah, this is a staff that, especially the way they got younger, they can connect in a really in a good way for the future recruiting classes.
Billy, just out of curiosity, you ever seen a copy of that test? The recruiting test that they got?
I haven't. I'd be interested to see, because it sounds like something that is.
You think you could pass it? Do you think you
Billy
could pass
could?
it?
We couldn't.
Pass it. Yeah, it's. I actually have seen one now that not the actual copy, but they have them where you could take practice ones online, and some of them are. You would think it's much more common sense, but leave it to the NCAA. They really make you think about, where you're able to walk on a high school campus or something during certain portions of the year. It's just, yeah. I could see how some guys, take a minute to.
Hester, do you think you could pass it?
No. Probably not. Yeah.
This is
the one lick was enough for me.
This is kind of like one of those "Are you smarter than a third grader?" type deal. Yeah. You think,
you
yeah, I'm
smarter than
definitely,
a
until you
fifth
actually
grader?
see the test. Oh, it'd be obvious. No.
Hey, let's talk some more bylaws here with Billy Embody of 247 Sports. Billy, you mentioned the transfer portal. Kind of tell our listeners what the practices are there. If you want to get in contact with someone from the portal, if you're LSU and you're Coach O and you're wanting a linebacker, what's that process?
Yeah, they have their contact information there in the portal. And actually, if you believe it or not, a guy can enter the NCAA transfer portal and mark that he does not want to be contacted on there. So I don't know what the purpose.
Yeah.
What's the
of
point?
that would
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
Yeah, what the point of entering it would be, and then not being able to be contacted. But I guess maybe that's an after-the-fact thing. If you commit somewhere and you don't want coaches hitting you up, you could maybe mark yourself that way. But yeah, it's they list all your contact info, and you can put film in there, I believe, and things like that. And coaches can really just monitor it in real time, and then start that process of reaching out. And it's kind of like recruiting all over again. You gotta you're not gonna hit up his old coach unless you're friends with him, and try to convince him to come your way, especially if you're Power 5 schools battling it out for some of these guys that are in the portal. But you got to try and get in contact with family members and high school coaches or people in their corner and recruit them. I think one of the good examples is how they recruited Joe Burrow, and just they worked Dan and they worked the rest of the family, and they just recruited him and did a really nice job of that. And that's kind of how it goes if you're playing your cards right. Billy,
we appreciate your time, man. Good news for LSU today with Brian Thomas signing with LSU out of Walker. Thanks a lot, man.
Anytime, fellas.